Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2024, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Zunker, and I'm the president with the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to the 2024 election. We ask voters to arm themselves with the information necessary to make educated choices and to make casting your vote a priority. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org to find out more information about the upcoming election for Shakopee City Council. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Ken Ludzack, who's running for City Council. Ken, thank you for joining us today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Tim. My name is Ken Ludzack. I'm a 25-year resident of Shakopee, happily married, I better say, to my wife, Janelle, for 36 years. We have 4 children. They're all Shakopee grads and currently 8 grandchildren. I've been involved in the community in a number of different ways since I've been here, volunteering at my church, volunteering in a number of youth sports activities as a coach and a leader, volunteering for events at the school. I did serve on the Transit Commission till it was disbanded, and I did run for school board in 2015. I'll say as the not real confident in the current administration candidate, but was unsuccessful at that time. So I've been here a little while.
Great. Thanks, Ken. Let's get into those questions. First one is, why are you running for Shakopee City Council?
So from the small town that I grew up in, my dad served as town chairman and also on the county board, county commissioner for a number of years. And that kind of instilled in me a legacy that you need to be involved in your community and give back if you can, if you have that opportunity. So I've kind of had a desire, a legacy to be involved, to give back, to give service. I've lived here for 25 years. Shakopee's my home. I hope to be here as long as they don't chase me out. I want to see Shakopee continue to be the kind of community that I've enjoyed for 25 years. For years to come. I've got a son and a grandson that now have a house here that might be around for a while. So I think it's really an opportunity for me to serve the community, to give back to what Shakopee's given to me. One thing I really have appreciated about Shakopee since I've moved here is that it's a 150 plus year old river town with its unique history and even history before that. But it's also a booming suburb of a major metropolitan area. And I just really like that uniqueness. I want to see that stay. But I also know Shakopee's going to grow. How are we going to grow smartly?
Great. So, thank you, Ken. What are your top 3 priorities if elected to the City Council, and how do you plan to address them?
Yeah, when I looked at this question, I'm not really coming in with an agenda that says we need to stop doing this tomorrow, we need to start doing this tomorrow. I do have some priorities. I would say my biggest priority has to do with growth. So making sure that the growth that Shakopee is going to do pays for itself. We've grown for the last almost 30 years since I've been here. It's grown in population as well as the business community has grown. That's going to continue for the foreseeable future. But the Met Council came out, I think it was earlier this year, and said Shakopee at full build out was going to be they're estimating it's going to be a population of 68,000. I don't know if I agree with that number or not. I think it could be a bit higher, but we were at 45,000 in 2022 was the estimate, a little higher than that, and we've grown since then. So 68,000 is a ways away, but it's coming sooner than we think, and I want to make sure we're planning for what happens when full build-out occurs. In other words, if we're funding current services using growth dollars, how are we going to pay for those current services people expect when the growth dollars stop? Or slow down even, which it's probably not that far off in the future, 10 years, 15 years, something like that, which sounds crazy since Shakopee's growing like crazy, but that's probably the reality. So again, managing growth, make sure it's paying for itself. Second priority, kind of along the same lines, the entertainment venues we have in Shakopee, making sure they're paying for the services they're provided. I think it's pretty common knowledge that about 2/3 of the arrests in Shakopee are at Valley Fair, Canterbury, Mystic, guessing the amphitheater is going to add to that total. And there's good reasons to have those kind of venues here. They're a benefit in many ways to the community. But, there's the arrest, but there's also going to be transportation issues and getting people in and out, maintaining the roads, making sure that, we're sharing the costs appropriately with those venues for allowing them to be here or having them here. So that'd be my second priority. And third priority, really just more in general, kind of being a watchdog for the taxpayers of Shakopee. Again, I want to see Shakopee thrive and grow. I don't think those things are incompatible, that we watch our spending and become a better and better community down the road.
Great. Thank you, Ken. What strategies do you propose for managing the city's budget while ensuring necessary services and infrastructure improvements?
Sure. I think the first thing with looking at the services is making sure we understand what the core services that we're offering the city are. Obviously, things like police, fire, road maintenance, road construction. We got to plow in the winter. We got parks to maintain, mostly in the summer. You have to plan for long-term and short-term infrastructure. So, those are all core values. But if there's things we're doing that are not core services, that maybe either a private company could do better or private company should be doing, take a look at that and make sure we're doing things that bring the value to the taxpayers. That would be the first thing. And then when it comes to infrastructure, that's really the job, I think, is planning for infrastructure currently and down the road. I think you always have to keep a flexible mind because, for example, in 2004, the city council, I'm sure, had no idea that the number of people who work remote, which I do, would be living in Shakopee, as opposed to highways, transportation would be much more important because we're all driving to the central city or whatever for our jobs. So many people work remote now. That's changed a little bit. They couldn't really foresee that. Maybe they could a little bit with technology, but can you look forward to things like that? When I ran for school board, one of the big conversation pieces, and again, this is 10 years ago, so it's a long time, but was that there was going to be 800 or 900 students per class in the Shakopee demographics were showing that. And so we needed this much space for the school. But one of the things I brought up and other people brought up at the time was, just because there's 800 or 900 kids in that age living in Shakopee with things like, schooling online, homeschooling, private schools, PSEO for high school students where they can attend a college and get high school and college credit. There might be 800 or 900 kids in that age level. There's probably, in fact, you can almost guarantee there's not going to be 800 or 900 of those kids in the building at any given time. So, planning appropriately for that and making sure you're not overbuilding, over planning. 20 years from now, things are going to be different. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the crystal ball out and see the future, but I think that's part of the job as well. So for infrastructure, I think that's very important to plan, but also to look and say, wait, they might do this different in 20 years. Do we want to fix this now or wait till the new cool thing happens in 8 years? There's going to be some things we're going to have to judge along those lines.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Ken. How do you plan to strengthen economic development to support existing businesses and attract new businesses to Shakopee?
That's an important thing. Again, we are still growing. I think for either a new or existing business, I think the key, what they're looking for is stability and predictability. If they move here, they want to know that, the taxes, the fees, the regulations that they're seeing are going to be relatively consistent so they can plan for, being here for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, longer, hopefully. So I think that just goes to having a well laid out plan so they're not going to be hit by any big surprises after they move in. That'll give us a reputation, which I think we have, of being a good city to work in and work with. So we want to continue that. And then as far as it goes to new ventures, to new businesses, again, I'm really looking to see that what the benefit they're going to bring in jobs, taxes, whatever the benefit they bring is going to equal to the amount of money the city taxpayers are going to lay out to help them come in. There's always some of that, there's often some of that involved. Just have to evaluate it and make sure it's a win-win. But I also think, Shakopee's done a really good job of developing a strong light and heavy manufacturing base. I think we have a lot of space available to grow that. I would like to see us diversify our employment or new business base a little bit. I like the technology hub that they started a couple of years ago. Love to see more high-tech technology type of jobs come into Shakopee. Hopefully that can happen. And then also I think of things like corporate hubs. I think as large corporations look to kind of go to more of a hub model, not a centralized location, because people are working remotely and because people don't like to go into sometimes a central city location, you're already seeing companies like Target and, maybe a Cargill or a UH, United Healthcare. They're going to be looking for hubs for corporate campuses for their professionals to come and work at 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 5 days a week. Shakopee, I think, should be an attraction for those types of businesses to come in and plant in Shakopee. We have the infrastructure and highways. We have a diverse, large, employee base that's here. For the heavy manufacturing, we have lots of, we have good rail. But I just think we even have the river, So I think there's a lot of advantages. So we have a lot to offer. I think we should be promoting that, not shy, and I don't think we are shy, but continually promoting that. But I think looking to diversify and get a little more aggressive, maybe in some of those other areas that, other than light and heavy manufacturing.
Great. Thank you, Ken. And how will you work to ensure transparency and communication between the City Council and Shakopee residents?
So I think this is an important issue, even though I don't think this is any fault of the city staff or the city, at large. But I think communication, because people's methods of receiving information have changed so much in the last 3 or 4 years, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, but 3, 4 years especially, that it's hard to keep up. It's been hard to keep up. But I think it can give an appearance that the city is trying to do things behind closed doors because maybe we send out in the formats we have, a meeting notice or an event notice or an announcement, and people don't get it. And then they're like, well, I didn't know that was happening. Now, you could say it's their fault a little bit, but really it's our responsibility as a city to get that information out in the best way possible. And I know we use a diverse amount of methods. I mean, I think we're on LinkedIn and Facebook, and we still do the newsletter. We're on something called Threads, and I'm a boomer. I don't know what Threads is, but I use Twitter or X a lot to get information. The city's not on Twitter anymore. I would recommend we go back on that, but just because it's another way to disseminate information. But I think it's a matter of figuring out how people are getting their information and then making sure we're getting it to them in the fashion where we're fairly confident they're receiving it. When the Valley News went away, and again, maybe I'm showing my age by reading a newspaper or reading a newspaper online, but when it went away, I think the city of Shakopee lost a clearinghouse for a lot of information where you could get information from the chamber, from the city, from Shakopee Public Utilities, from the school, all in one place about events that are happening or meetings that just happened, and that hasn't really been replaced. I'm not sure it's the city's duty to replace that, but maybe as a group, those groups could figure out a way to replace that information. Maybe there's a private enterprise that can come up with a better idea. I'm always open to that, but I think that's something that's missing. And then just getting down to what our core communication responsibilities as a city are. We need to make sure that when critical events are happening, like, if there's a crime spree on a street, or there's a power outage, I guess that's probably more Shakopee Public Utilities, but still a power outage, a traffic light goes out. How are we communicating that to that neighborhood so they know that we know about it, we're working on it, we're trying to take care of it. And then just finally, from a personal standpoint, if I, as a council person or as council people, I think it'd be, it's important to have, if you want to call them listening sessions, maybe quarterly. I don't know where people can at least come and address you on the issues, be available. Obviously, we have phones, we have email, there's ways to reach the council people. And I think it's very important to be, as responsive as possible, as quickly as possible. In my business dealings, I've always told my people, respond same day if possible. Well, same day is the goal. Next day, if it's late in the afternoon, is okay. Next morning, preferable. And sometimes those responses are just, hey, I got your message, working on it. I don't have an answer for you yet, but at least that shows responsiveness, somewhat transparency. People know you care. And I think people will respond to that. And that's kind of the standard I'd like to see for, employees of the city to have, is just, responsiveness right away, even if the answer is, hey, we're working on it. Transparency and communication, I think they're very important. Again, I think we're at a place where all that's changing. So I think we really need to figure out the best way to communicate. But, I think the slower that happens, the more people become distrustful of what the city is doing.
Great. Thank you, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
That is our question. So I'll give you the opportunity to give your closing statement and message to the voters.
Sure. Thanks very much, Tim. What I like to say is, if elected as a city council person, I will approach every issue that comes with an open mind. That's my first promise, but also with a mind that's in the best interest of what I feel like is in the best interest of the majority or of all the citizens, taxpayers of Shakopee. I've enjoyed being part of this community for the past 25 years, and I'd appreciate your support as I run for city council. You can reach out to me in a couple different ways. I have a website. It's Ludzack for Shakopee.com. And you can also email me at ludzack@gmail.com. Ludzack is Ludzack, just so we make sure I have the spelling correct. Appreciate the time, Tim, and thank you.
Thank you. The views expressed in these interviews are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber is sponsoring these interviews as a service to the community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity. The Chamber does not endorse any candidate, but seeks to provide you, the citizens and voters of Shakopee, with the information you need to make an informed choice. The Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau extends a sincere thank you to the candidates. Once again, thank you, Ken. We appreciate your time and your service to our community by running for office. You're performing an important service to us all. Again, thank you for joining us for this edition of Meet the Candidates 2024. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.